I guess we'll hit up on the AL starters to start with. Is that all right with everybody?
Sure.
I'm all in, yeah.
Salvador Perez, the top overall vote getter, is starting behind the plate. And
I mean,
then
I don't think he deserves top overall vote, but when it comes to the three catchers that are on the team, I mean, I can't see anyone. I couldn't replace them. I think Perez earned that spot.
hey man, don't forget these Royals fans are diehards. Didn't they almost get Omar Infante into the All-Star game? Or did they
Yeah,
get Omar Infante into the All-Star game?
they didn't, but they almost did. They tried.
Wasn't he released and didn't he just sign with the Braves, I think?
Well, I don't know about the
Or
Braves
no,
piece,
somebody
but
signed him, right?
he probably signed a minor league deal somewhere. But he was leading for a little while, and then close to Altuve leading up to that release. Kind of hilarious, but also terrifying for what I hope are obvious reasons. But I don't really have any issues instead like Sal Perez kind of being that top guy in terms of the overall leading vote getter. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that he quote unquote deserves that, but I'm not gonna get up on it because that's not something that we're gonna remember down the line and say he was a six-time leading AL All-Star vote receiver, and that's why he belongs in the Hall of Fame. It'll be forgotten by August 1st.
WD Hess in the chat says that I am correct that he signed with the Braves.
Boom.
He does have his flashback card with the Braves in this game.
Game changer. Hey, he was good for the Braves. He's been good for the Tigers on two different occasions. I got plenty of love for Omar Infante, but if he had been on the All-Star game, I swear to God, it would have been problematic.
Sticking with Royals, moving to first base, Eric Hosmer. I'm not against that, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know what Hosmer's stats are for the year, but
I mean,
I feel like I don't know if he should be the All-Star starter. But I don't.
who
That's
belongs
That's
there?
what I don't know. I don't know who would go there.
Yeah, so I'm trying to think like
Tell your Tigers
who.
fans to get out there in full force. Get
Yeah, I
Miguel
mean,
Cabrera out there.
it's never problematic if Miggy wins. Like I think of any time that Miguel Cabrera wouldn't have been a very deserving starter to the All-Star game. So yeah, they kind of botched that one. If they could have gotten him in, that would have been a pretty good idea for them. But I'm not freaking out that Hosmer ended up taking that one. There are some. It ended up being what basically KC, Boston, and the Cubs that really dominated these All-Star votes, and the KC ones are pretty innocuous with those two guys getting it. And I don't think Kane ended up winning. He
No,
was leading for a while, so they only got the two guys then. Okay, yeah, that's not so bad. So I got no problems with Hosmer.
Second base, we got Jose Altuve, the the MVP of the AL. I would say right now.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that Altuve deserves that spot. I mean, Paul's talked about how hot he is right now in terms of batting average. He's hitting career power numbers. We're waiting for that upgrade to come through in the show.
It's really got to be to 99.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It really does.
I don't see. There's no way he can't be, especially being a second baseman, where you get those extra ratings for power and stuff
yeah.
that you don't get for other places. So he definitely deserves to be in that 99 club with Trout and Kershaw.
Yeah, and with the +7s from IE, he's already a 99. So
Right.
Yeah, and that's true. He often plays there, but in terms of market value and things like that, there is something about having the 99 on your card that I think would definitely improve his market value. And by the way, I did go ahead and look it up since we were talking about it. Since Edwin Encarnacion made it as a DH anyway, it doesn't really matter, and he wasn't going to beat out Ortiz. But Miguel Cabrera does have better numbers offensively than Eric Hosmer at first. So yeah, Tigers fans, you could have gotten him in, and it certainly wouldn't have been any problem been over Hosmer. But then when you factor in defense, Hosmer usually has a stronger case there. Although this year the defensive metrics hate him. But to that end, I would say those who subscribe to the defensive metrics and those who are very statistical in terms of creating those sorts of metrics, they say not to trust them too heavily in a 1 year sample. So I imagine half a year, probably even more volatile. So I'm not going to kill Hosmer on that. But I will say that looking at these defensive metrics this year, that they say that he's way off his normal pace.
Well, and you would know better than anybody, Paul. Cabrera's underrated defensively, isn't he? His
I've
glove
been
is pretty
saying it
good, right?
forever.
Dude,
I
he's a
really
cat.
have been. Exactly. He's a big cat. Remember Big Cat Andres Galarraga? I really do think that he is a bit underrated there. I'm not going to sit here and try to convince y'all that he's a super plus defensively, but he's not the slug that he's made out to be. He can make his fair share of good plays. He at least knows what he's doing. He might be limited in terms of what he can do from a mobility standpoint because he's a big dude. But Miguel Cabrera, I don't think embarrasses himself out there at first.
Yeah, me and Miguel Cabrera have a lot of similarities. I also fashioned my game after the big cat Andres Galarraga.
Paul, don't do it.
Not gonna lie,
leading
I
in.
was not going to do that, Millennium.
in high school, when the big cat took that season off for the what was it, cancer that he had, right?
Yes.
I did rock his number on my high school hat.
By the way,
in
I know
support of
that's
him.
it's a hard detour here, but how sick would an Andres Galarraga card be?
I'd be all over it. Well, how is that not the
man,
Rockies
so
legend?
amazing.
Don't get me wrong. Love me some Dante Bichette, but why
Yeah,
is
but
it
it
on
should have
Andres
been
Galarraga?
Galarraga. Or honestly,
Could've
Bichette's pretty low on that list because I'm thinking Galarraga, Larry Walker,
Helton.
yeah,
Todd
Todd
Helton.
Helton,
Mhm.
Yeah.
all above Bichette. But as we all know, more than me, having played the game even longer, it's all about what they can get, right? And you know,
You're
he
telling
might
me you
have been-
can't get Andres Galarraga?
I don't know.
I'll
right?
put a call into him right now.
Like you have his number. I'll just give him a buzz real fast. I'll bring him in on the Discord really fast.
Let me see.
and we
Don't
will
forget those
negotiate
Braves
the
years.
price.
TJ's all about those Braves years.
I mean,
That's
he
true.
did
I
hit
think
302.
45 with. I think
Yeah.
he hit 45 homers with.
Got his stats up right now. Galarraga with the Braves in 98 hit 305, 44 jacks, 120 RBIs. Come on.
Didn't you got his numbers up? Didn't he have a big, like age 43 year with the Giants for no good reason? Like it wasn't a full season. It was probably like a platoon season. But I remember him beasting, and he was older.
It was age 42 with the Giants, hit 301, 12 jacks, 42 RBIs in 110 games. Only roughly 300 plate appearances.
I imagine so. He was a lefty killer, and he just mangled lefties, which is pretty awesome to do at age 42 and be a plus player like that.
And look, you could also have him as your Expos
Yep, for the
legend
Nats.
if you want. He hit 302 with 29 jacks, 42 doubles, 92 RBI in 88.
And
led the league in
that-
hits that year.
a bit more spry at that point too. Always a bit of a spry guy was Andres Galarraga. So you get one of those first baseman types who actually has some speed, like a Goldschmidt, a Rizzo, or a Hosmer, the aforementioned Hosmer.
Did we ever figure out the stat that we made up that time?
Oh yeah, what was it called?
I don't remember. But I'll tell you what.
You had a great name for it. It's in our G chat somewhere. We can.
In 1990, where was it? 1996, 47, 18 jacks, 47 homers, 18 stolen bases. Sorry, that's a 65.
That is-
Whatever that thing we made up was.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
That's monster numbers
And
right there.
It's unbelievable, and probably like 200 RBIs because numbers were insane back then.
So make sure you guys go out to Twitter at MLB The Show, hashtag Big Cat Legend. They'll know what it means.
I like it.
Just tell them. Hashtag Big Cat Legend. All right. What were we talking about? Who's next? Manny Machado. Somebody here loves Manny Machado.
I don't know who. I think it's Paul. Paul, you're a big Machado guy, right?
I am actually, but we're obviously talking about you. You know, interesting, right? Because you can go a lot of different ways. Well, he's starting at third, right? So you can go. I don't think there's really any other way to go, but you could have snuck him in at shortstop if you wanted to. But Bogarts was obviously voted in, and Lindor's there as well. But yeah, I mean, Manny Machado. How much fire is he? Josh Donaldson probably the only real contender pushing him that you could have said, okay, if it would have been Donaldson, nobody would have complained, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, even as an Orioles fan, you're not going to hear me argue. Completely unbiased. Donaldson could have easily been the third base. I think Machado gets more play on TV because he's becoming like the face of the Orioles at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you look up, he hits another clutch hit or another defensive play. I think that's the other part of this is Donaldson's good defensively. Machado's a platinum glover.
Like that clutch hit off of your Donovan Ventura.
Yeah, the clutch hit onto your Donovan Ventura.
So yeah,
Machado's got the
that
glove
was
of a shortstop playing third base.
exactly.
Yeah,
Did you guys see that Steven Drew diving play yesterday?
Barely knew that Steven Drew still played TJ.
He was
I
playing
barely
second.
knew that.
Playing second for the Nats yesterday. Made a nice diving stop because he has those shortstop skills.
I only know because I just bet into my player to get Andre Dawson. So
Next up, my man Xander Gogertz, representing the Netherlands. My dude. Where's my Netherlands? Something.
I mean, again, no arguments. I would say Lindor, who got on the team anyway,
Yeah.
might be having the better year overall. But Bogarts again is having another career year. A lot of these guys we're seeing in this All-Star team are having career seasons. So,
Well, and shortstop is utterly ridiculous right now. And then you get into those kinks with the must take one from every team sort of situation where Eduardo Nunez took a really key spot there that could have very easily gone to Carlos Correa. I understand Carlos Correa hitting 262, but that's why you don't go by batting average, because you look at the 361 on base and the 462 slug, and those are right up there with the best guys at his position. So, that's kind of one of the problems. Now, the one thing too about getting too angry about who didn't make it yet is we haven't had a single dropout. We're going to have 15 dropouts. Or probably 20, probably 10 on each side.
That last five, they're probably all gonna be in. That's how it was like 2 years ago, right? Didn't everyone get in?
And they've already got Wade Davis is already going to be replaced, and
Kershaw.
Yeah, they've already got some injured. So yeah, those are already a couple that'll get replaced, and there'll be guys that drop out. And unfortunately, I'm not trying to predict it or hoping for it, but there'll probably be some guys who get nicked from here till the game starts that can't play. So
and then some of the starters will be like, "Oh, I'm going to start this Friday," and then not pitch in the All-Star game.
Exactly. Yeah, pitchers especially will have tons of dropout.
In the outfield for the AL, we have Trout, Jackie Bradley Jr., and Mookie Betts, one of my favorite Diamond Dynasty players.
JBJ?
Yeah.
Or Betts?
Betts.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I wasn't. Geez.
Second base eligibility.
And I actually like him better there. Tamp down the fielding penalties this year, so actually putting him at second base doesn't really kill him. I think Betts probably deserves a defensive upgrade anyway, and that way I would be more inclined to use him in the outfield, but I have no problem using Betts at second base. Those offensive numbers are utterly ridiculous, his statistics there, and he's often pumped up, as he is today, with 10s across the board. So you're at 95, 90, 88, 82. I mean, that's utterly ridiculous.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I don't know what they use for arm strength. I think that's a hard metric to go on for a rating, but he definitely deserves an upgrade there. He's been playing right field for them most of the year and has been at the very least above average, and has made some plays. So I think at the very least an arm upgrade would be nice, with some reaction time as well.
Yeah, I mean, he's never struck me as like a noodle arm. So I was surprised when I saw that. Now, the one thing that I've kind of learned from some folks in the community, namely Cardinal Bird, was that 83 reaction that he has, which is really good, does make up a little bit for the fact that the 69 fielding maybe isn't as nice as you would normally want for somebody of his caliber, because I honestly think that fielding number could be boosted as well for Betts. But either way, you're looking at a 54 arm strength. At least if you're putting him at second, arm strength isn't quite as important. And I don't know what determines the arm accuracy either. I'm not sure. He's got a bunch of wild throws. Maybe they have access to StatCast stuff that allows them to get that, but I don't. I really have no idea.
Right. The one thing I want to say is you just mentioned, speaking to Cardinal Bird about something. I think it's so reaction time affects acceleration to top speed, and I think fielding actually plays into the top speed as well. So like we mentioned Adam Jones a lot on this show. Obviously, I'm an Orioles fan, but he's got a 90 plus fielding, and that makes his 63 speed more like a 70-ish.
That makes sense.
So yeah, but then again, his reaction time makes him get there faster. So, and you can definitely tell reaction time this year.
Oh,
low
yeah.
reaction. Yeah, you see guys stumble in the outfield.
Yep.
Starting. Yeah, it's amazing.
Not get that first step. Obviously, we've had some of the over the top defensive errors that we're not thrilled with. But yeah, defense is very important this year, and I think they over-indexed on it a little bit, but better that than it not. I didn't necessarily like last year. You get to certain points where people are using crazy guys just to get the bat in their lineup. In fact, actually, I saw this yesterday. Somebody had Prince Fielder at second base, and thankfully he was an utter disaster.
Nice.
Whereas last year you might have been able to skate on that for a little bit. I think they might have over-indexed on it, but I prefer it to defense not meaning much.
Yeah, I
Agreed.
actually had I think it was a battle royale game. I put rookie Anthony Rizzo in right field. Ball found him, but he made all the plays.
I actually put Michael Saunders at second base one time, and he's the wrong hand for second base.
I had a guy use his lefty at shortstop.
It was bad. It was bad. I would put him there just to get his at bat, and the second that he batted, but the ball found him a couple times. It was interesting to say the least.
And we had this chat last night, Paul, I believe, with guys that are completely out of position, not listed as a secondary. Moving a guy from like shortstop to second base, a smaller penalty than moving him like from shortstop to left field or shortstop to catcher.
There's like a matrix for it, which is awesome because that's exactly what I was hoping would be. Because you should be able to kind of, if you put Troy Tulowitzki at second base, it's not listed, but he should not be a total idiot there, right?
Agreed.
Maybe he takes a 20% hit or something. Even that might be a little bit more than I would think, but it's understandable, especially the defensive spectrum. Any shortstop moving down that chain should take a lot fewer hits than if you try to squeeze Miguel Sano in your lineup and say, you know what, I'll just put him at second base. Why not? Or shortstop. And then all of a sudden, he's a nightmare. By the way, fun fact, which I didn't even mean to bring up when I said Miguel Sano, he did play shortstop in the minors, hilariously.
He also played shortstop in El Pelotero, the
movie about him, right? Yeah, the documentary about him.
Well worth a watch. I assume it's still on Netflix.
Full agree.
I need to watch Fastball. I think
Yes,
it just
you
came
do.
out, right?
Yeah. It just jumped in on what's it called?
It's on Netflix, right?
Netflix. Yeah.
Also, Knuckleball, well worth a watch. DH, David Ortiz, not even a question, right? Dude's dominating.
Yeah. What we don't even really need to.
Yeah, he's even come out and said he even came out and said that he is regretting saying that he was leaving this year.
Yeah. I mean, he was going to be the starting DH no matter what after saying it was his last year.
Right.
And these numbers completely backed it up, so it doesn't really matter. Backup DH, Edwin Encarnacion, who we kind of touched on a little bit before. Deserves it. Wasn't going to start, but he deserves that nod. Infielders, Miguel Cabrera, Josh Donaldson, who we've mentioned already. Robinson Cano at second. Lindor, who we also mentioned. Eduardo Nunez, who we mentioned, getting the Lone Twins nod. Outfielders, Trumbo, Beltran, and Ian Desmond. Actually surprised the Yankee fans didn't come together for Carlos Beltran to get him a starting spot. I think he's on the DL now, right? So he's not going to probably play.
Wait, Beltran hit the DL? I missed that. All right.
Either he's got the DL or he's just hurt.
I know he's had a nagging injury, but I didn't know if he hit the...
I thought he did, but maybe I'm wrong.
I'm looking it up for you.
Maybe
not as of yet.
Maybe he was just hurting. But
yeah, he pinch hit yesterday.
Yeah, I want to say he's probably done after this year, so I would have liked to see him get that final year in there, but we'll see. Also, Ian Desmond having a great year.
Don't be surprised. He can.
I know he can still play, but maybe we just call it a day. What's his numbers? Carlos Beltran's doing? Like, he's doing real good. People were like mad that
Absolutely.
I voted. When I did my votes, I put him in as a starter, and people were like, "Ooh, Carlos Beltran a starter." I was like, "Yeah, he's hitting 296, 16 or 19 home runs, 53 RBIs. That's not bad."
No, it's not. That's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Like, I could see Beltran maybe DHing for another. It just depends. Like, this is the thing with Poppy, right? Because one of the things that he kept saying early on before, you said that he regretted maybe leaving this year. But one of the things that he was mentioning early in the season when he was dominating, like, why are you retiring? Why are you retiring? It's because of the grind that he has to go through to get the body ready in the off season.
Mm-hmm.
And it was that piece that Ortiz was like, that's the part that's really difficult. I imagine Beltran goes through a similar type of grind because he's had so many injuries in his career. He is going to be 40 next year. But I don't know, man. You're looking at somebody like Beltran who is still dominating offensively. And I mean dominating, not just holding his own. He's dominating. I could see him playing another few years because then all of a sudden you're talking about a Hall of Fame. I really think that we'll see Beltran stick around.
And he's a free agent after this year, so we'll see who needs a DH. Essentially, I mean, he can still play the outfield.
Exactly. Well, yeah, but you really want him.
Yeah, you don't want him playing in the outfield, essentially. But he's played 51 games in right, 21 at DH. But the Yankees also have a big problem with people getting hurt and only being able to DH.
You know who hasn't been terrible in the outfield and made it the All-Star team based on his pop this year?
Mark Trumbo, who we
Mark
already mentioned.
Trumbo, yeah.
Who's?
Mark Trumbo.
Oh, yeah.
I was fully expecting Trumbo to be like another coming of terrible in right field, and he hasn't. He's got a good arm. I mean, he's had some tracking issues once in a while, but he's really learned to play right field, which is weird at Camden Yards with the wall out there. So very impressed with that.
What's his rating? Do you know off the top of your head?
Right now, 83, I think.
I think TJ meant defensive rating.
No, I meant his defensive rating is like a 7.
So Trumbo probably deserves an upgrade, right? Because he's kept it going, and I definitely was out there beating the drum of watch out. He's probably going to fall back to earth because that's kind of what he always does, and he just hasn't. And I definitely think that Baltimore plays a role in that. That park, that lineup, both those factors are really working for him. And I'm happy to say I've been wrong, and I'm now leaning more toward. He might have another, bummer cold stretch because he actually hit like 239 in May, but it was still with the power. As long as that power's there, I could see him getting another upgrade, really, with his power. 99 versus lefties and maybe 86 or 87 versus righties.
Yeah, and I mean, he's still striking out at a decent clip, so I don't think he needs an upgrade anywhere else. I think you're right. The power numbers... I don't think his fielding needs that. See, that's the thing, though, is his fielding is pretty much good where it is. He's got 79 arm strength, which is good.
Yep.
But he's in the 50s, which is where he is historically.
Yeah, and that's where he needs to be. That's where he needs to be.
Absolutely. So I think the problem with that is he's an 82 right now. I don't know how much further up he can go with what he's got. His ratings look pretty good for what he does.
About the only thing that they might be able to do, and Millennium, you might know this better than either TJ and I off the top of our head, is he dominating with runners in scoring position? Because then if that's the case, he could get a clutch upgrade because he's at like 48 right now, which feels low. I don't know. I just, in my mind, I feel like he's a little bit more clutch than that. And I know that's runners in scoring position sort of deal. If he could get an upgrade there mixed with the power, we could maybe sneak him to gold. But they might have to finagle it because otherwise, I'm with you. I just don't see anywhere else where you can give Trumbo legitimate upgrades, like to his contact or to anything else to get him to gold.
Nope. Yeah, and like I said, I think if you really deep dive into what Trumbo's doing right now, the person he has to thank the most is Matt Wieters, because Matt Wieters has been behind him most of the year. And when he started going down, Wieters heated up, and I think Trumbo's seeing pitches because of that.
He is 298 with runners in scoring position.
What's his OPS, TJ?
His
Don't
OPS
quote me.
is 892.
Okay, that's good. That means he's he's doing pretty much exactly what he does with runners out of scoring or not in scoring. Say, he maintains his excellence there. That should probably be over 48. So I don't know. Maybe you give him 10 points there, and you give him those power upgrades. And all of a sudden you're talking about an 85 at least and get into that gold. And, it might not effectively change the way he plays, but it's all about that shield sometimes when you're talking about working the market.
With men on, his OPS is 1050.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear.
He's actually really bad with nobody on. 746 with no one on.
That's weird. I remember who I was looking at today. There's another guy like that who was legitimately like bland as hell with runners on. Well, I guess it makes sense though, because with runners on, it's much more difficult for the pitcher. So it isn't that crazy.
He's coming out of the stretch and
Yeah, you're coming out of the stretch. You're dealing with traffic, so you would expect it to be better. But what was that, like a 400-point difference? That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, like
300. Yeah, 300.
Either way, you're right. And can he keep that up? Again, like I said, I think he's benefiting a little bit from placement in the lineup and actually getting somebody behind him, which 5 hitters don't always get. So, and actually, I think he's moved up. He's moved up to 4 above Davis at this point.
So good enough too.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, the backup catchers are Wieters and Vogt. Wieters says all right. Stephen Vogt's all right, right?
Can't argue with that.
Yeah. Vogt was saying that he would have preferred teammate Ryan Dull make it as a middle reliever for the A's.
Vogt is the only A, right?
Yeah, I mean he deserves it. I love Steven.
No love for Chris Carter. Chris Carter? That's not his name. What's his name? Chris Davis.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Oakland.
Power's been lit.
No.
The best thing that ever happened to Vogt was Vogt and Norris getting split up.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to get because they were working a platoon. Remember that platoon was pretty lit though when they had it.
Yeah, it was.
They realized that listen, we got a guy here in Vogt who can be a full timer. Let's trade Norris off to get something else and try to improve the club. Of course, they now suck, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, TJ, you're probably right. If outfield wouldn't have been so deep, see that's where scarcity helps because Chris Davis and Josh Reddick really, but Josh Reddick has missed 30 games. So Chris Davis has actually been better than Vogt, but when you're comparing outfield versus catcher, much easier to fit Vogt in at catcher than it would have been to get Davis in for the outfield.
Especially AL catchers.
Exactly. It's so bland.
All right, let's blast through these pitchers, knowing that half of them probably aren't actually going to be at the All-Star game. We got Chris Sale, Craig Kimbrell, Zach Britton, Andrew Miller, Wade Davis, who we already know is not going to play, Marco Estrada, Cole Hamels, Danny Salazar, Stephen Wright, who we should just pitch the whole game with that knuckler, Dylan Betances, Brad Brock, Alex Colon, Kelvin Herrera, and Will Harris.
The only guy I want to Column, yeah. The only guy I want to speak on is Brad Brock. The guy needs an absolute upgrade. He stepped into that setup role that O'Day is hurt with and out of. Absolutely needs to be upgraded. And we all know my feelings on Zach Britton, the best closer in the game. So
I feel like somebody has talked about Britton and Brock both deserving upgrades. I don't know who. Some people out there who do upgrades and talk about them on their streams and have been beating the drum for Brad Brock. Now, I will say they did give Brad Brock an upgrade 2 weeks ago, and it was much deserved. But he's actually deserving of another one already. So this is not a slam on SDS. They did give him an upgrade, and he's awesome. I'm really, really good with Brad Brock in my lineup. But even since the upgrade, he's only pitched a few times, but he's continued to be lit. And I think that maybe they just sometimes I feel like when they have a guy who's at for example, he was at 75. Actually, he started the season at 73. They gave him a little upgrade to 75, then another little one to 78. I think they want to stair step him because honestly, they probably could have gone from 75 to 83, but that's 8 points for a middle reliever. And I get it. You kind of want to maybe take it a little bit slow, especially with a middle reliever who doesn't pitch a whole lot. But you just look at what Brad Brock is doing. There's no way he shouldn't be better than a 78 with what he's doing. But I will say his card plays better than a 78, so don't get hung up on the overall.
Oh yeah, that splitter is legit.
So nasty.
Rocket Powered Zombie in the chat was bringing up Ryan Dull. I think at last I saw he was at 36 straight inherited runners that have not scored.
Yeah, and that's probably why Stephen Vogt was trying to beat the drum for him because he has been really, really good. And, but the only flaw in Ryan Dull's game, and dating back to last year, is a little bit homer prone. And with 1.1 this year, 1.1 homers per 9, that's 5 homers in 42 and 2/3 innings. He had 4 homers in 17 innings last year. So he's really improved it. He'll need to improve that more if he ever wants to ascend to kind of a 9th inning role. You just can't give up homers as a closer. But as a middle reliever, he's been lit for sure. And I think he got an upgrade relatively recently, but he might be doing another one himself.
And keep an eye on him. When you mentioned the home run over 9 numbers, we all know
doesn't matter for us.
Doesn't matter. So if they upgrade his other stats and keep his home run over 9 down, could be one of those sleeper bullpen arms for us.
And when we say that, we mean online play specific.
Right. It affects SimStat only.
SimStat only. And in fact, he last got upgraded, Ryan Dahl did, from 69 to 73 back on June 3rd. So it's been exactly 1 month, because he hasn't pitched today, exactly 1 month since then. He's thrown 14 innings of a .64 ERA with 17 homers, with 17 strikeouts and 1 walk. He's been amazing. So he's due for another upgrade, and only 1 homer in that time. So they might even either leave the homer per 9 as it is at 56, or even boost it just a small margin, just because he's been tamping down the homers lately. In fact, he's only given up 1 homer in his last 21 appearances. Pretty big. He gave up 4 in his first 17, and then 1 in his last 21. So Ryan Dahl, man, these small middle relievers, they're not going to move the needle in terms of market, or they're not the flashiest players to put in your lineup. But as we get deeper into the season, I like to use players that aren't on everybody's team, because then they're not seeing them. They're like, who the hell is Ryan Dahl? I don't know how to hit this guy. And that can be a little bit of an advantage on its own, because who hasn't seen Pat Neshek 52 times and knows how to hit him? Who hasn't seen rookie Chris Sale? So Ryan Dahl and Brad Brock, I recommend as guys to get in your lineup who play better than their ratings and are unique.
Yep, we got Celtics fan 2434 in the chat saying Kimbrel didn't deserve to be an all-star in his opinion. What's he got? 17 saves and a 2.53 ERA.
The problem is when you get the closing pitcher, I mean, once they see the saved numbers, a lot of times that takes over.
Hey, but guess what? The league leader in AL saves is not on the team.
Who is it? Oh, wait. Let me guess. Steve Cishek?
Nope.
AL saves?
You're going to be pretty pissed when you can't figure this out, Paul.
Oh, it's K-Rod then?
Yep. K-Rod's leading the league with 23. Also, can I get a shout-out for Aroldis Chapman? He's already tied for 10th in AL saves.
That's why, I didn't care about... I cared why he was a terrible person, but from a fantasy standpoint, it didn't deter me from drafting him. 5 months of Aroldis Chapman is still better than 95% of all closers in fantasy baseball. And
if Chapman would have made it, the entire no runs DMC, which is probably the worst name I can think of. Sorry, 3.03 ERA says. All right, who is this? Oh, I'm looking at K-Rod. Kimbrel's got no, it says Kimbrel has a 2.53 ERA. Lewis. Just
Lewis. Let me see what are his numbers that go with. They're looking at saves and ERA there, because that might have been a player's pick.
Possible. Well, all the pitchers are the coaches, right?
He's got a .94 WHIP, 13 and a half strikeouts. It's hardly.
He's not bad. Yeah.
It's not an offensive pick.
Right.
Maybe they could have gone elsewhere to get some of these other players in, but I don't look at that and say, "Oh, Kimbrel was a travesty."
Yeah. All right, let's hop
Final
over
vote.
Final vote. I guess we can handle that.
Oh yeah, real quick.
We got Ian Kinsler, Evan Longoria, Dustin Pedroia, Michael Saunders, and George Springer. Around the horn. Paul, who's your pick?
Ian Kinsler, and it's not just because I'm a homer. I think he's very deserving. He really could have been on. He could have been the starter.
Millennium.
Well, actually, no, not ahead of LT. Let me amend that. He could not have been the starter, but he should have made the team.
All right, Millennium. Who you got?
I'm picking Saunders. Obviously, can't put him in over any of the other outfielders in a very deep position. But he's sitting in the 910 OPS right now and hitting lefties and righties. He used to be, a big time righty splits guy. He's hitting both now pretty evenly. So definitely think Saunders is the pick.
Yep, and I am taking Saunders as well. I'm sorry, Paul. Hopping over to the NL, we've got Buster Posey behind the plate. Oh, what was the stat? Was that the everybody on the AL starting lineup other than David Ortiz is 26 and younger?
Wow.
So that's pretty good. Which
is big because when you start really thinking about young players, I think NL, like the first, I think all the young guys are up and coming in the NL. I don't really think of the AL as being young, but when I start looking down the roster, Hosmer, Altuve, Machado, Bogarts, I mean, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, it's that whole group came up like 2 years ago, and now the NL group is the ones that came up last year. So around the horn, Buster Posey behind the plate. Is there another NL catcher even worth talking about?
I think Ramos, but Ramos isn't getting in over Posey.
Yeah.
Want to vote.
Who else we got? Then we have the All Cubs infield with Rizzo, Zobrist, Bryant, and Addison Russell.
The Chicago Royals, you mean?
The only arguments you could make is probably Murphy over Zobrist at second, and pretty much anybody over Addison Russell at short.
Right? Yeah, I think I love Addison Russell, and I think he's a superstar in the making. He'll be part of this big shortstop renaissance, but he's not there yet. And the thing of it is, shortstop's so deep that he's definitely taking a deserving spot, because could have gotten Seager in at starter, which is definitely who should have had it, and then Crawford can get in that way. That was a tough one, except even as a big Addison Russell backer.
Yeah, I think we all got to agree that Seager should have started at short.
Yeah, and you mentioned the shortstop renaissance. Isn't it awesome that it's so many different types of shortstops too? Like you have your contact guys, you got your power guys, and Seager. I mean, Machado's going to be a shortstop when Hardy's done. That's another larger shortstop. I love the differentiation we're getting in players that are still really good.
Totally agree.
Then also we have Dexter Fowler in the outfield for the Cubs. I know he's hurt. He's trying to get back to make it to the All-Star game. This will be his first. And then Bryce Harper and Yoenis Cespedes round out the outfielders.
I mean, looking at all the other outfielders, Duvall, Gonzalez, Ozuna, Herrera. I mean, Fowler was really hot to start the year before getting hurt. I don't know that I would start him over like Cargo, maybe, but I mean, I can't argue when I see the others. Yeah.
And I know some people are saying maybe Harper didn't deserve it because batting average or whatever, and he hasn't been as super elite kind of since that Cubs series where they walked him a million times. But for me, he's kind of that guy. Harper is, where unless he's embarrassing himself, unless he's got a 700 OPS, he needs to be basically with anything over 800, he needs to be in the All-Star game, because it is still about the very best players. Not I think he's a guy Trout is a guy that their half season doesn't necessarily need to meet up to what Dexter Fowler's has to be or what Jackie Bradley Jr.'s has to be. I think that just kind of being a quality version is enough to get them there. So I have zero issue with Harper, and I saw some blowback on that. That's why I bring it up.
Yep. Doesn't even apparently this page doesn't say the backup catchers.
Backup catchers are Jonathan Lucroy from the Brewers and aforementioned Wilson Ramos of the Nationals.
Someone tell Pasta Padre to inform the Sporting News they do not have the backup catchers on this on this roster. Oh, there they are. They're not in the same order as the AL team. So whoever the editor
those are good backups, by the way.
Yeah, I like Wilson Ramos. I got no problem with that. LaCroix can't hit with him.
He's been great.
That's the only problem. Infielders, Will Myers been hitting the crap out of the ball, right?
Will Myers has been as hot as anybody the last month and a half.
He's
probably the
hottest Corey Seager, as you would say.
Yeah, he's amazing. And honestly, I dominate. I've got better rated cards, but he stays in the lineup right now because I'm hitting 600 with him in 50 plate appearances. In real life, 50 plate appearances is obviously not enough to make any sort of judgment about anything. But in this game, I think when you're talking about playing with a player, once you get to somewhere, honestly, around 30-ish plate appearances, if you're dominating with someone, chances are you're good with them. And so I have a much lower threshold than I would for judging somebody in real life, because these are, the video game to real life translation's a little bit different. So, yeah, Will Myers, I can't get him out of my lineup when I'm hitting 600 with 50 plate appearances.
Yeah, let me tell you a little bit about Corey Seager and me. 163 games, so essentially a full season, but he only has 363 at bats. 150.
VR?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I guess. Though I feel like I don't use him. Oh, probably. I wonder if this takes into account the
Conquest.
Conquest, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
363 at bats, 115 hits, 24 doubles, 22 homers,
Jeez.
59
Oh
RBIs.
my god.
I'm doing all right with him. I have like an
317.
8 OPS, but that's nuts.
OPS 918.
Well, and the other thing that finally came out of that was his fielding upgrade a couple weeks ago. That was
Finally,
major. Yeah, major to be able to keep him at shortstop. He was okay playing third base in Diamond Dynasty, but now he can play shortstop, and you can actually make routine plays with him.
We also have Paul Goldschmidt, Nolan Arenado, who could be starters. Goldschmidt probably didn't deserve to start this year, right? He didn't have a great.
No, he started
success.
really slow.
Yeah.
He's starting. He put it back on track, but he started really slow.
But Goldschmidt's one of those guys like a Bryce Harper where he's going to make this team if he has a okay Paul Goldschmidt season.
Exactly. If you're showing up and you're up something over 800 OPS, you got to be in Paul Goldschmidt. So I got no issues with him making the club. And to Millennium's point, he did start off a little bit slowly, but he's been back on track lately. And now it looks like vintage Paul Goldschmidt. For a while, he was hitting like 240, but the OBP and the slugging were there. And now everything's on track where you could have easily made a case for him starter. But there are a few more Cubs fans.
Few more, as he's saying, few more Cubs fans that would obviously be voting other people in at this point. Unfortunately, getting Rizzo in over Goldie. So,
I still like Goldie. I still like Rizzo over Goldie. Nolan Arenado at third, obviously a great player, but
yeah.
Chris Bryant having a hell of a year. Though, question: where do you play Chris Bryant in the All-Star game? Because you can play him anywhere.
You've also got the next third baseman on the backups as well. Is he a second baseman? Is he third baseman?
Yep.
I mean, he deserves to be there, Matt Carpenter. So
Yep.
Well, that's kind of the beauty of it, right? They can really finagle these guys around because there are so many changes in the game. To get guys in, you can move these guys all over the place. You can even move Murphy over to first if it's a situation where you're trying to bridge between bringing Rizzo and Goldschmidt in. You know, Myers can play the outfield. You already mentioned Carpenter second, third. Bryant outfield third. That flexibility really helps.
I actually
Herrera.
Yeah, I actually wouldn't be surprised if Fowler can't play. If they put Bryant in left, and then move I guess you could move Zobrist to third, and then have Murphy start at second. Just throwing suggestions out there.
I mean, just like you said, there's just so much you can do with this team. Like I said, Odubel Herrera coming in the outfield, even though he's only played outfield this year, known that he can play multiple positions. So yeah, I think that combined with that pitching staff, though.
Yeah. Well, we still have a lot of players to get to before the pitching staff.
Yeah.
Adam Duvall spelled incorrectly on the Sporting News page. It's 2 L's. Odubel Herrera, who we mentioned, Cargo, and Marcelo Zuna. Battle Royal Dominator Marcelo Zuna. If you see his card, pick it up. Dominates left-handed pitching.
Kills lefties, but also hangs in there against righties.
And Cargo in the show is ridiculous.
Yeah, if you did a Cargo Odubel platoon, that you would have a dominant outfielder wherever you want.
Does Cargo even need a platoon?
Yeah, Cargo can't hit lefties in this game right now.
Yeah, unless you have the prime one of.
Right.
Correct. You are correct. Pitchers for the NL. Clayton Kershaw, who's not going to be there. He'll be there, but he's not going to be pitching. Jake Arrieta, Noah Syndergaard, Strasburg, Bumgarner, Jose Fernandez, Johnny Cueto, John Lester, Julio Teheran. Julio Teheran's the only Brave, I guess. Jerry's Familia. Is Familia the only Met? Kenley Jansen, Mark Melanson, AJ Ramos, and Fernando Rodney. Any problems with any of those guys?
No, not at all.
Nah.
I do have a question. If there wasn't this limit on players, I mean, if you didn't have to have a player from each team, does Trevor Story make it in over Adam Duvall? I feel like they're kind of the same player.
That's a really good point.
I think Duvall's only getting in as the Reds guy.
Absolutely. Right. I mean, I don't have an issue with him being in, yeah, I think things would really change if you didn't have to do the one per team sort of deal because, I mean, honestly, when I'm looking at it outside of they might have brought him in just as a home run derby potential participant because honestly, Jay Bruce has been better.
True.
When you're just looking at the triple slash line of batting average, on base, and slugging. So yeah, I'm with you there.
And for the final five, we have Brandon Belt, Starling Marte, who's another Diamond Dynasty monster, Ryan Braun, Jake Lamb, and the aforementioned Trevor Story. I wouldn't mind seeing Trevor Story in the home run derby.
Same.
He's not going to make it because there's still so much bad pub on him. I think Ryan Braun is probably the most deserving to go to this game.
Ooh, I don't know. I would go with Jake Lamb.
Jake Lamb's he's got the hype right now. I agree with that.
He's been so dominant with the power, particularly against righties, and that shows up in his Diamond Dynasty card too. But he's been so smothering against righties that it almost doesn't even matter what he's doing against lefties. You're talking about a 609 slug, which I believe leads the National League right now. 19 homers, 6 triples, 19 doubles as well, a 290 average, and all of that comes with a 189, 323, and 415 line against lefties. He's basically just given away 65 plate appearances because of his stuff against lefties, and he still has those obscene numbers.
Dude, he has a total right now in 276 bats of a 974 OPS.
It's not bad.
That I didn't even realize that. That is huge.
He's my vote there, and I'm with you on Braun, where I think he's plenty deserving, but I agree that there is probably still some residual disdain for him, and why not, right? Because I'm less concerned about the fact that he used PEDs, but the fact that he obliterated that tester and just blatantly effing lied, man, it's tough to overlook that. So I'm fine if there's residual hatred to a small level. I should hope it's just baseball, but I understand if people don't want to vote for Braun. But if you're going to pass over him, I say go with Jake Lamb.
Yeah, we in Baltimore call that palmeroing.
That's exactly what it should be called. That's really fun.
I personally like Starling Marte just because I love him in the show, but I think Trevor Story, it would be a good story if he made it to the
Oh my God, I have to go, guys.
Really
I'll talk to you never.
Someone did ask, Be the Beast CJ in the chat would like to know who we think should be the starting pitcher for the NL.
Well, since Kershaw is not going to go, I'll say Thor.
Yeah, I would say Thor. I mean, maybe Jose Fernandez, but I think Thor pretty much is.
I feel like there was some talk today that Thor might not pitch.
Understandable as well. I was going to mention that.
Well, he just came off of, what was it, bone spurs or something?
Yeah, he's got bone spurs right now, and they've clearly been impacting him the last couple starts. So at that point, I go with Millennium as well on the Jose Fernandez train.
Who starts the AL?
Wait, hold on. You have to use the DH, right?
Yeah, so no Mad. Well, actually, I'd love to see Madison Bumgarner.
Can we make a rule where Mad Bum starts the game, gets his AB,
and
then we bring a DH in?
I mean, listen, I think Mad Bum has a reasonable case to be the starter, right? I mean, talking about a 2.20 ERA, which is actually better than Syndergaard's and Fernandez's. So I wouldn't really have an objection to that. His 114 innings are up there among the very best. So listen, that'd be fine. And then if they wanted to put him in, but the fact of it is, you have such a deep bench with the All-Star game that having a DH is actually pretty useful to getting somebody in and getting them a plate appearance. So they can't do it.
And look, his last outings have been I don't even really want to say shaky, but Jake Arrieta's on pace to have a better season than he did last year. Not ERA wise, but he's probably going to end up with more wins, less losses. He's leading the league with 12 wins already.
Yeah, that support that he gets, even in the midst of, like you said, being a little bit shakier than he was last year. I mean, that's just so huge. So, yeah, he has a case as well. But I'm going to go with Thor if he's healthy enough to pitch. Then I'm actually going to shift. I'll say Bumgarner over Fernandez because I didn't realize he was down to a 2.20 so far this year. which is just obscene.
Oh wow, yeah. And then I'll say it. AL. Who? I mean, does he start? Do they start Stephen Wright?
I want to see him start Stephen Wright. I don't think they will.
I tend to agree with TJ there in terms of I just don't think that they will, and I'd be fine with it. I would not have a problem with it, but I can't see it.
Your choices are Sale. Yeah, you're probably gonna give it a Sale. Where's the game? The game's in San Diego.
Yeah.
No real reason to have Salazar or Hamill start there.
Well, why not Salazar over Sale? Though I mean, again, if you're kind of looking at what they're doing this half, Salazar has more strikeouts. Now the thing of it is,
I feel like Chris Sale is again, it doesn't count. So I feel like Chris Sale is the bigger name. You're going to get a couple more people to tune in at the start of the game to see Chris Sale than to see Danny Salazar. But
it does count.
I mean,
sadly enough, it does count. It's stupid that it counts. But to your point, yeah, I'm okay with Sale's my actual pick, but I do think the case for Salazar when you're looking at an ERA that is the AL's best at 2.36, big strikeout guy. I've got no issues really. Either way there. I think it is between those three, though, that we've mentioned. Sale, Wright, and Salazar. I'd actually put them in that order, even with Salazar having the better ERA in terms of who I think. Because Sale kind of goes back to that point we're talking about with with Harper and Goldie, where as long as Sale is pitching to a high caliber, he's somebody that absolutely belongs on the team. And when he's pitching to anywhere near an elite caliber, he's in contention to be the starter.
Who was it in the chat? Celtics fan in the chat says AL has the bullpen, NL's got the starters.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
Maybe the trick is we hold Stephen Wright in case we get into a tie game situation, because this time it counts.
Because then you can just let him go.
Yeah, just let him go.
I mean,
just an option.
It'd just be so interesting to see him start, though. Like, how much would that mess up the guys the rest of the way?
Yeah, I would love to see it. But sadly, we're not. Also, where's Will Smith?
He's getting jiggy with it. You talking about the Milwaukee guy?
Yeah.
He missed time on the DL, though, right? So
yeah, he's only pitched in 16 games. But
I think to Celtics fan point, they had so many starters that they just didn't even go that heavy on relievers in the NL. And didn't they don't they not have like any middle relievers? Like they don't have a Brad Brock on the NL. Do they? They have like
pretty much all closers.
Yeah.
Fernando Rodney, the only.
Well, he's the closer with the Marlins right now.
You sure about that?
Wasn't he closing the other day?
I thought he pitched the 8th the other day.
Okay, maybe not. But he was obviously a closer for the bulk of the year. So yeah, technically, since both made it, one of them it is technically a middle reliever. By the way, who did the Padres get besides Myers? Anybody? When they're hosting.
I think it was just.
It was just Myers.
See, that's a bummer that they could have had to if it wasn't for if Rodney hadn't been traded.
Is there anybody else on the Padres that would get it this year?
No, because Yangervis Solarte was hurt.
Yep,
so.
and Ross got hurt early, which would have been the only other chance they had.
Yeah, you're right. He's only pitched the 8th for them. He's definitely been their setup guy. I knew he blew the save, and so when I heard blown save, I falsely associated it with him.
Assumed it was him.
But can we talk about that flashback, Rodney, though?
It's so filthy. I need that card so badly.
So good.
Can we get Melvin Upton Jr. on this All-Star game?
I don't know, man. He's been really good defensively.
If he plays the Orioles every game, maybe.
He's a beast.
He's been good this year. I mean, we're talking about he's been more of a fantasy asset though, with 13 homers and 19 stolen bases. We're still talking about a 745 OPS, so maybe it would be tough to finagle him in there.
Maybe Drew Pomerantz sneaks in if a starter goes down.
I can definitely see that, and I don't know.
His record is trash, but that's because the team he's on. But
hopefully they don't go off to that. And I don't know if they would do this, give priority to the hosting team, but I'd be okay with it for Pomeranz specifically because he's been awesome.
Yeah, pitching to what stat would you like me to read? He's got a 1.095 WHIP, 10 Ks per 9.
There you go. Those are good. You can throw out ERA too. Just ERA alone is not a skill indicator for those skills that you're talking about.
Yep.
with it, the 110 whip and the 10 strikeouts, that tells you how good he is.
Yep. 2.65 ERA, not bad. 7-7 record looks terrible, but how about Big Game James? No. All right.
Well, he's not on their team anymore, but also he's terrible.
We should get him back on the team
To pitch the home run derby.
Yeah, him and Max Scherzer.
Exactly.
Also, yeah, people were complaining about the Scherzer snubbage.
I mean, but look at the people that are in.
I know. I can't argue with anybody that's in.
It's so deep in the NFL.
They got a lot of good starters.
I get it, because he definitely qualifies in that realm that we're talking about, where as long as you are, being a solid version of yourself, you have a good case. He'll get in via dropouts, but I have no problem with him not making it over the starters that made it. If you want to start finagling one of these relievers off, maybe, but over the starters who made it, I'm okay with this.
There's already 9 starters on the team.
He might strike out 300 this year. Leading the league with 155. Also leading the league with 21 jacks.
It's insane. It's insane. Like,
his career high is 29, so he's probably going to blow by that this year.
Home runs were an issue for him with the Tigers. Like, when he was trying to put it together and go from kind of that third, fourth starter to the ace, it was quelling the home runs that really needed to come together. And no shock that his best home run to date was when he had the Cy Young season, and then he was better even the next year. And then since he's been with Washington, his homers have kind of gone back up. But Max Scherzer, that just shows you how good he is, because a 1.6 homer per 9 would normally kill a pitcher, but it's only pushed his ERA up to a 3.21, which is still pretty respectable.
Can we talk about on the down low one of the better diamond pitchers in the game because of that, Paul?
Who dat?
Max Scherzer.
Oh, yeah. That's a great point, is that you look at that rating, and again, that's not going to hurt him. The homer per 9, they can move that all the way down, as far down as they want, because they probably need to move it down even further, and it's just not going to affect you in online play. We'll reiterate again that homer per 9 is a sim stat only, so do not factor it in when you're doing your BR drafts or making your DD lineup.
Yep. Like right now, he has, I'm bringing it up right now, because it immediately clicked with me after we had this entire conversation. He has 84 hits over 9, 85 K over 9, 82 clutch, 77 BB over 9, and then it's a 59 HR over 9. I mean, the guy is dominant in the show. I wish he had something like a 2-seamer or a sinker to throw. He's a 4-pitch guy.
They used to give him a sinker, right?
Yeah, he used to have it, and I'm not sure what the distinction was that cost it. I'd actually have to look at Brooks Baseball, because I don't know. The thing of it is, most guys kind of manipulate their fastball in multiple different ways.
Yeah,
but
I was watching. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know if he is throwing a true sinker this year or not.
Yeah, I was watching the Nats game yesterday. I felt like Papelbon was throwing kind of a little 2-seamer going on, but he doesn't have it in the game.
Yeah, you got to watch out for the break on the 4-seamer in this game. The break actually does something. It started last year. I think it's more pronounced this year.
Absolutely, because I always like when I was doing my DD or my road to the show point. I'm like, well, what 4-seam break? What's that for? I know what late life is and all that in real life, but I was like, do they actually factor that in? And I absolutely believe that 4-seam break is a thing this year, which is pretty awesome. I'll tell you what, one thing I'd like to see with Scherzer in terms of an affordability standpoint is if they did give him that homer per 9 downgrade, take him back to a gold, tank his price, and then I can buy him. You're no worse for the wear.
Yeah. Also, it looks like his cutter usage is on the uptick, depending on how you feel about that.
Oh, man.
There you go.
If he started using a cutter, oh man, he would become number 1 starter for me. I love cutters.
You know what's really interesting? Oh wait, I was looking at something. Never mind.
Right. One of these days, we're gonna have Paul and I are gonna have a complete show on the merits and penalties of the 2-seamer in the show.
Good.
I'm getting a little bit better with it, but I still feel like I give up catastrophic home runs with it every once in a great.
All right. Are we done with the All-Star game? At
Yeah,
least
absolutely.
at least these players in the All-Star game.
yes.
Okay.